Hey there, rockers. We are back for yet another tale. And when I say we, I sound like I have multiple personalities. I'm back again for another rock and roll tale. From April 16th, 1985, we're going to go back in the time machine backwards to see three bands. Yeah, man, Krokus, Accept, and Rough Cut. They performed together on the Krokus Blitz Tour in Peoria, Illinois, at the Bradley University Robertson Memorial Fieldhouse. Now, at the time, I was about 18, 19 years old, and I was actually, I think 18, if not a little younger, but I think 18. I had a big, huge black mohawk, and at the time, I don't think many people in Peoria, Illinois had mohawks, let alone the big rooster kind like I had. It was pretty freaked out to people. The Midwest at that time was way behind on cultural open-mindedness, let's just put it that way. Today, it may be different. I haven't lived in the Midwest for about 13 years, but hey, man, this is 85 we're talking about. I used to get people calling me names, like saying things when I walk down the street, like, does your mother know you dress funny? I remember that one. I was like, hey, you gotta be kidding me. But anyway, I had this big mohawk. It's 1985. The bands are playing at the Robertson Memorial Fieldhouse. I remember a huge line all the way out the door and all the way down the sidewalk. And it felt really good, man, because at that point, I was really full of piss and vinegar. And kind of a nihilistic frame of mind. I was just very young, very anti-establishment, very anti-corporate rock at that point. I had gone through this big kind of metal phase from like 80 to 83, and then I really embraced punk rock from 83 on, so I was kind of mixed. And even though I paid good cash or whatever to see this concert, I actually ended up heckling Rough Cut and Accept, and I actually pissed off Udo, the singer for Accept, so I'll get to that in a minute. But the show started with the band Rough Cut from Los Angeles. Now, if you're not familiar with Rough Cut, you know, honestly, in my opinion, you're not missing much. No offense to the Rough Cut fans, man. Honestly, I'm just being honest. The guys, though, that came from that band were pretty legendary. Jakey Lee was in the band for a while, who later played with Ozzy. And there's a story on this channel about me getting high with Jakey Lee, if you want to check it out. Also, Amir Durak, guitars and synthesizers. He ended up doing something as well. I made little notes about Amir. He was in the band Orgy later on. And then, of course, Craig Goldie and Claude Schnell ended up in the band Dio, so rocking out with Ronnie James Dio. And when Rough Cut was playing that night, they actually gave a shout-out and mentioned Dio and said that Dio was a big supporter of theirs. So maybe I just am missing the boat on these guys, but they came out wearing, like, I don't know, to me, and I don't take this wrong, they were more like a girls' band. Kind of like the kind of band that guys don't dig because they're really just dressing for girls, playing to the women, and that's fine. But they just didn't, they lacked kind of the balls that I dug in heavy metal and hard rock bands. But whatever, that's just my opinion. Now, Rough Cut did come out with this big announcer with a rock and roll voice saying, "Would you welcome from the streets of Los Angeles, Rough Cut?" And they came out and did their best to be the opening act. You know, I gotta say, I ended up heckling the band. Like I say, I was full of piss and vinegar. I remember, you know, not just me, but whoever I was with, and I can't remember for the life of me who I was with. But you know what? These shows are all on my other YouTube channel, The Church of Rock, all one word, The Church of Rock. Krokus, Accept, and Rough Cut. I recorded the whole show, but each one separately. So you can type in Rough Cut, Church of Rock radio show, Reverend Moody or whatever, and it'll come up on YouTube. So check it out, man. They opened the show with the song called The Kids Will Rock, and then Rough Cut went into Dress to Kill, not the Kiss song, to my knowledge. Also, they did She's Too Hot, and then they went into You're Never Gonna Die, and then a song called Take Her. And then, of course, the band broke into something interesting. It was their version of Janis Joplin's Piece of My Heart. I gotta say, in my opinion, it just kind of sucked. Again, don't stone me if you're a Rough Cut fan. I'm just an honest dude, man. The next two bands were way better, trust me. But Rough Cut just kind of turned me off. I wasn't into it. We were heckling them, screaming. I don't think they heard us, but I think I heard somebody at one point closer to the front. We were more in the middle. And they were saying BS, but they were saying the word. I'm trying not to cuss on YouTube. They have weird rules. But they were saying BS, but they were saying the word. And Rough Cut at one point said, yeah, I agree, man. No more BS. You want some more music? I get it. He was totally working with the fact that he was being heckled, and he wasn't going to look at it negatively. He just was using it to his advantage. So, hey, good job to the singer. By the way, Rough Cut was made up of Paul Shortino on vocals, Amir Derak on guitar and synthesizers, Chris Hager on guitar, Matt Thor on the bass guitar, and on the drums was Dave Alford that night. So that was my review of Rough Cut. Again, to me, they were cheesy. They used almost every single cliche metal term you can think of. Kind of like Paul Stanley. Great performer, but not real diverse on the stage banter, let's face it. But he was saying every freaking rock cliche known to man, and we were like, oh my God, shut up. So yeah, they did 7 songs, and thank God they were out of there. Now the next band is one of the bands I came to see. In 1983, they released a killer metal album called Balls to the Wall, and it was just awesome, man. And you know, even though, like I say, I paid money, I gotta admit to you guys, and you're gonna hate me, I actually heckled them so bad that Udo almost came off the stage and literally kicked the crap out of me that night. The singer, UDO DIRKSHNEIDER. Let me get to the show more, and then I'll get back to that point. Yeah, the people I've pissed off, I tell you. So, Accept, they are from Germany. I love Accept. They did some great records over the years, and they've been around forever. And they've actually had so many incarnations that they ended up having a different singer at one point. Not sure where they stand now. If you're a big Accept fan, tell me down in the comments what's up with those guys now. What's Udo doing? Is Udo alive? Udo DIRKSHNEIDER on the vocals, Wolf Hoffman on the guitar, who was the only member to be on every single lineup of Accept and every single record they ever did. Wolf Hoffman, guitar. And then Jörg Fischer on guitar as well. And then they had Peter Baltas was on the bass guitar, and on the drums that night with Accept was Stefan Kaufmann. The guys came out and rocked. I got to say it, man. They were tight. They had their backing vocals down real smooth, and they sounded just like the records, like when they did like Balls to the Wall, and they did the whole that cool little breakdown. They had all the vocals down pat. I got to give it to them. They opened the show with a song called Metal Heart. Then they went into London Leather Boys, which is, you know, how do I say this? You know, Udo came out like Rob Halford did, which is totally cool. I'm absolutely not a homophobic guy. But at the time, back in the day, I never knew that Rob was gay, and I didn't know that Udo was. But when you see songs in retrospect like London Leather Boys, Screaming for a Love Bite, it just, you know, Balls to the Wall, and it just, Up to the Limit. There's so many songs that kind of gave away everything about those guys. You know, Priest is a whole different story, and I'm a huge Priest fan. So I am not in any way denigrating gay people or Judas Priest or Udo. I'm just making a point that at the time I didn't know that was their deal. And later, Rob admitted that a lot of his lyrics were, you know, sexually oriented to his sexual orientation, right? Not necessarily mine, but Udo was the same. I didn't pick up on that, man. I just thought they were extremely leather, kind of into leather and metal. But no, good one, Udo. London Leather Boys is such a badass song. And then they did Love Child, which I love. God, I'm repeating myself, eh? Midnight Mover was next on the Accept set list. And then they went into Screaming for a Love Bite, which is a killer tune. Then they did a song that I love the title of, Too High to Get It Right. Sounds like me when I'm making these YouTube videos. I'll sit here and do like take after take after take after take. Partially kidding. And then they did, of course, Living for Tonight, which is a great metal tune. And they did Up to the Limit, and then finished off the set with Balls to the Wall. One of the best metal albums ever. I think many would probably agree, man. Very catchy stuff by those cats. The headlining act of the Blitz Tour, of course, from Switzerland, a band that I love. And in 1983, they released their Headhunter album. God, Headhunter is such a killer album. If you agree, say so in the comments down below, because man, what a great, great record. There's not a bad song on the Headhunter album, really. The guys were made up of Mark Storis on vocals. Excellent singer in the vein of, AC/DC-ish sort of vocals. Then they, of course, had Fernando von Arb on lead guitar, but that guy also played keys and bass throughout the career of the band. They had Mark Cokie Kohler on rhythm and lead and bass throughout the career of the band, too. He changed on whenever they needed him, he switched instruments. And I can't remember who played the drums, I don't believe. I don't think I could figure out who actually played drums on the tour for 1985 for Krokus. So, sorry, I failed you, man. I failed you guys. But they opened up the show with Long Stick Goes Boom. I had seen them in St. Louis in like 1980, I think, and they were just doing the tour for that album, I believe. But Long Stick Goes Boom is one of their most well-known metal songs from Krokus, and it rules. And then they did Ballroom Blitz by The Sweet. Yeah, who doesn't love The Sweet? And I like their version of that. Some people said they kind of went glam when the album came out with, the album Blitz. I didn't notice that when I saw them. I thought they were just a great rock and roll / metal band. The third song, Heat Strokes. Then they went into the Guess Who's American Woman, which was another semi-hit for those guys. At least the fans always thought it was really cool that they did a Guess Who cover. Screaming in the Night from the Headhunter album was next. Great, great song. And then they did Our Love into Ready to Rock, which is your seminal rock and roll tune, man, to get the crowd going. Then, of course, they did Stayed Awake All Night, again from the Headhunter album. Gotta love that title. Stayed Awake All Night. Who can't relate to that back in the 80s? Whew. Back where I'm from, the bars open at 6 in the morning and they close at 4 in the morning. So there's a 2-hour period where the bars aren't open in Peoria, Illinois. And I think it's the same way today. It's one of the only cities in the country like that. I think maybe Vegas or maybe a couple other places, not many. So Peoria, Illinois was a party town. And I did so much partying that I have to do a lot of notes for these and a lot of fact checking before I do that, because my memory's kind of freaked out these days. But it's going pretty good, actually. The more I do these things, the more my memories actually come back, so it's cool. But I do a lot of fact checking and deep diving to get the correct set list and all the facts straight before I get on here. But some of you still bust me out with some of the inaccuracies, and that's okay, because I need to be corrected, because how can you be the self-ordained high priest of rock and roll if you get stuff wrong, right, in rock and roll? So go ahead, correct me. And then after that, the band went into Midnight Maniac. Of course, into Eat the Rich, which is a great song from the Headhunter album, and maybe one of the more knowns from that album, Eat the Rich. Great song. And then, of course, they closed the show with Headhunter, title track from that great 1983 classic. And there was nobody heckling Krokus. I liked those guys a lot. Now back to Accept. While they were on stage, there was 2 times that Udo had the band playing it low and he could hear the crowd. And I literally, with my mohawked attitude, nihilistic ass self, was literally saying, F you, and screaming as loud as I could just to get a rise out of Udo, because I was actually singing along to the show. I heard it on the recording earlier tonight, so I enjoyed it. I was just being a dick. I was a teenage dick with a mohawk. And I was up there, F you, and Udo was getting P.O.'d, and he was yelling F you back and freaking out. And the second time that he heard me do it, another song later, maybe another, 2 songs, maybe in the next song, I really went off like, you suck, we hate you, or something really bad. And I admit it, and I suck for doing it. I'm just being honest. It's a story. But Udo literally said something to the effect that, don't make me come out in the audience and kick the crap out of you, kind of thing. And I also almost thought he was gonna. And then I thought, wow, that would be really humiliating to have the singer jump off stage and find me in the crowd and just beat the crap out of me, this German madman, all in leather. No thanks. So I finally stopped. But with Krokus, like I say, there was no heckling. I hope you guys appreciate this tale if you're a fan of Krokus, Accept, or Rough Cut. Sorry to offend anybody if I did. And if you're from Peoria and you saw the show, let me know in the comments. Could you guys do me a favor, man? Could you subscribe, like, comment, and maybe share this stuff, because it helps me build the channel, and I appreciate that. Shout out to each and every one of you that watch these regularly. I get a lot of really, really nice comments, and I respond to every single one of them. So if you have something nice to say, feel free, man. I'm always open for new friends, new conversation. And yeah, it's nice to have the channel build thanks to you with your balls to the wall, man.